The year is 1945. SS Cars, soon to be called Jaguar Cars Limited, hasn't produced a car in years, which is pretty unsurprising, as a world war had gotten in the way and all the people and materials they would have used to build cars had been thrown into that war effort. The brand had been known for making sidecars for motorbikes before building the bodies for passenger cars until it started building its own cars. The idea behind SS Cars was simple: build cars that looked good, had more premium specs, and cost a fraction of their more exotic competitors like Ferrari and Aston Martin. With this bold shift from the unfortunately named SS Cars to something much sleeker, Jaguar, the brand hoped to continue this formula, making cars that not only made the average person lust after them due to their splendour and beauty, but to further be successful in international motorsports to prove just how good these cars could really stack up against those rivals. It's a strategy as old as time: win on Sunday, sell on Monday, and Jaguar through the 40s, 50s and 60s built some of the most iconic race cars to ever grace the track, which ultimately provided the basis for their hugely desirable road cars too, like the XK120, XK140, XK150 and of course the iconic Jaguar E-Type, all of which remain significantly cheaper but just as desirable as their exotic European competition. They all embodied two major slogans of the organisation: grace, space and pace, as well as a much less catchy but equally important one: value for money. They managed to win Le Mans in 1951, 1953, 1955, 56 and 57, beating the likes of Ferrari and Mercedes. They were genuinely up there at the top of British car manufacturers, and what they were able to achieve in the wake of a world war that had massively compromised access to raw materials and the economy at large is nothing short of remarkable. So then, let's skip forward a bit. The year is 2024. Jaguar has once again stopped producing cars, which is pretty unsurprising as their market share has only decreased in recent years, as has their annual sales, as has their brand value and image. They're being propped up by their partner Land Rover, who go from strength to strength in a car market that loves SUVs and has limited interest in basically anything else, and is at the mercy of constant changes in regulation. Their once stellar brand image has been replaced. They're no longer the car everyone wants and can aspire to. They're a brand for old grey-haired blokes that play golf and want to remember the glory days. After years of following the crowd, reduction in quality and failure to encourage younger buyers, that's all they have left. So with their backs against the wall, they clearly need to change. They halt production of all of their cars as a first step. What should they do next? Well, this rebrand by Jaguar might possibly be the biggest single story ever regarding a car manufacturer's rebrand. That might be because it is probably the biggest ever car brand rebrand. Other brands have done an excellent job of changing their images over the years. Think Skoda, which was once a trash Eastern Bloc brand that was the butt of every car related joke, to now probably offering the best value and experience for money in the VW group. Or think Mazda, once a sporty brand building cool cars for enthusiasts, to becoming a budget brand, to now becoming a pretty cheap luxury brand. I mean, even think about the South Korean brands like Hyundai and Kia. They've gone from being the ultimate in cheap and cheerful to genuinely offering some of the best technology in modern cars, even competing in the sports car class. The difference is they never did a hard stop and huge shift in the way that Jaguar have decided to, especially doing it without any cars. So what are they actually trying to achieve here? Well, let's cut through all the noise of that bonkers advert and the new concept car that looks pretty similar to a fridge on its side with a couple of air conditioning units attached to the front and rear. Let's ignore the new logos and let's focus on the plan. Jaguar want to sell to a different market. Those grey-haired old golfing men won't be around forever, which is proven by their ever-decreasing market share. In 2022, Jaguar, which has been a high-volume manufacturer for a long time, had 0.23% of the European market share, selling just under 24,000 cars, a 36% decrease over the previous year after 4 straight years of declining sales, dropping from 84,000 sold to Europe in 2018. Of course, some of that will be due to the lockdowns and chip shortage, but compare that to BMW, who had 5.76% market share and almost 600,000 cars sold to Europe, or Audi, who had basically the same. It would genuinely be disrespectful to those brands to call Jaguar a competitor. That's like calling Tamworth FC a competitor to Manchester City. They both play football, that's about it. No shade to Tamworth, by the way, shout out to the National League League North win last year. And then we definitely can't call them a competitor to brands like Porsche because of the level of the market that they aim themselves at, as Porsche is of course typically a pricier, more luxurious brand, but even then, in 2022 Porsche sold 70,000 cars into Europe, almost triple what Jaguar sold. It shouldn't be called Jaguar Land Rover Group, it's Land Rover and a little bit of Jaguar. I'm labouring this point and I'll stop now, but the picture I'm trying to paint is that the Jaguar we started this video with hasn't been the Jaguar that we see today for a long time. Just look at the collection of cars they discontinued in 2024. Outside of the F-Type, the shining star of the Jaguar brand, the spiritual successor to the E-Type and the car that you can literally buy for under 20 grand used, everything else was pretty boring. In the last 10 years, the best thing I could say about any of them was that they got a facelift. It's a tired lineup, barely kept awake by those facelifts, and with a couple of limited edition models that I think are genuinely insanely cool, the Project 7 and 8, but if I had the money for one of those, I still wouldn't buy one, I'd buy something else instead. These cars are no longer aspirational, they don't offer grace, pace and space, except for maybe the F-Type, and they aren't great value for money until they've depreciated a bunch. They don't reflect the Jaguar brand that made its name in the 40s, 50s and 60s. It's a prediction by me, so feel free to ignore, but even the F-Type will never be the classic that the E-Type became. So with this Jaguar rebrand then, are we really losing anything? Well, I'll let you decide that in the comments down below, but to me, Jaguar themselves had nothing to lose and neither did we. With 64,241 cars sold globally in 2023, they barely made a dent on the market. What did make a dent was their ridiculous new advertisement, which garnered 128,000 comments on Twitter, 3 million views and 42,000 comments on YouTube, and plenty more engagement. Look up Jaguar on Google Trends and see the search interest in Jaguar over the past 5 years. This advert has literally skyrocketed the interest in Jaguar. You would have to add together the views of their next 20 most watched videos on YouTube to get anywhere close to the number of views this one advert has gotten, and that includes the literal launch of their new concept car, which itself has 275,000 views in just 2 days. They've gone from averaging around 1.5k views per video to hitting a 3 million view advert, and they've not even shown a car in it. The critique will come, don't worry, but just from a marketing standpoint, that is a ridiculous return on investment. They've turned a brand that effectively no one was interested in to one that everyone inside and outside of the car world is talking about, searching, and in many cases being pretty pissed off about. Now let's look at that rebrand. The advert comes across more like a luxury fashion brand advert or a fragrance advert than a car one. They've gone from a brand known for black, grey and white with the occasional nod to British racing green to one with vibrant colours, red, orange, pink and blue. The logo has switched up too, and despite their copy nothing mantra, they have followed the general shift towards simplification of branding with a less interesting Jaguar script, a new artistic circular and symmetrical logo to fit nicely onto wheel centre caps, and a sharper leaping Jaguar. I'll be honest, not a fan of the script, though I do think it looks better on the new shape of car they developed than the old script would have done. The circle does nothing for me, but I do like the sharper leaping Jag, it's quite aggressive. But I don't think many people really care about the new logos or lettering that much. They care most about the broader brand image, the new advert and the huge diversion of the brand. And fair enough, it is a huge shift from the Jaguar we know, and for the many that fear this nebulous concept of woke culture, vibrant colours, some questionable clothing and a couple of ethnic minorities were always going to rustle some feathers. But at the same time, I think it's hard to say Jaguar have actively killed their company with this move. If anything, it comes across as a last-ditch attempt to flip the narrative this being a dying old brand for old blokes and become something else. Should Jaguar accept a slow and boring death, or should it revitalise as it's tried to do? Well, there are other options. Jaguar could have gone down the route of revitalising the brand with a selection of fine, beautiful, striking cars that flip the narrative of them being a dying brand. They could have let those cars do the talking and start as they mean to go on. The problem with this, of course, though, is it's expensive. Research and development takes time and money. Increasing quality takes time and money. Getting out enough new exciting cars in quick succession takes time and money. You're unlikely to hit the jackpot with one car that propels the brand into a new realm, like Porsche with the Cayenne or Audi with the Quattro. And yes, I said that right. It's not the 911 that kept Porsche's lights on when it nearly went bankrupt. It was their radical shift to producing an SUV for the masses that enabled them to become the brand they are today. They compromised their brand image as exclusively a sports car brand and alienated the purists by making an SUV, becoming what they are today as a result. Maybe in a more radical way, this is what Jaguar are trying to do. too. In the hugely interconnected world we live in now, every decision, every move, every change is at the mercy of public opinion, and genuinely I wouldn't be surprised if that's what Jaguar have purposefully exploited with this move. It's the easiest way to gain traction in a world where hype and bandwagoning of opinions comes as a pretty lucrative currency. But it's a dangerous game to play too. With the amount of hate Jaguar have gotten for the rebrand, will they be able to turn that around and genuinely drive sales? They can get all the notoriety they want from a rebrand and a marketing campaign, but the bottom line is going to be sales and profitability. So that's what I'm going to focus on now. Jaguar are targeting a younger, wealthier audience, people that are cash rich and time poor and don't want something boring like an XE. They can't afford a proper socialite luxury car like a Maybach or Rolls Royce, cars that don't need any market share at all to be successful and have a strong brand value, but they want a bit of that luxury vibe. They're going all electric, a bold move in a market that seems to be stuttering over whether that is or will be the right decision. And to me, this is all genuinely mental. I'm not saying it won't work, but I'm saying it's crazy. The market they're going for isn't a car person's market. It might not even be a car market. Younger generations are statistically significantly less likely to care about owning a car. In fact, current stats show the younger the generation, the less they care about owning a car. So while their current target market might be depleting, their future target market is less interested to begin with. Then add on their position in the market with their first production car, a 4-door GT arriving in 2025, priced at around the £130,000 mark. We're talking almost £50,000 more than a Porsche Taycan. In fact, it's a similar price to the Taycan Turbo. It's basically taken Jaguar from being at the price range of your average BMW, Mercedes or Audi to the price range of your top-end cars from those brands or mid-range Porsche. And if it starts at the price of a mid-range Porsche, we're basically saying new Jags will be more expensive than Porsche. It's absolutely crazy, more expensive than the most expensive F-Type this year. That price shift is probably a bigger move for the brands than the brand image. What makes that even more bonkers for me is the all-electric part. As I've proven in recent videos, electric cars have had some pretty atrocious depreciation of late, and buyers of used cars often hesitate to go for electrics because they fear deteriorating batteries, loss of range and the likes, further contributing to depreciation. If you buy a brand new luxury Jag for 130 grand, how much do you reckon it'll be worth a year later? Well, look at the Taycan, which came from a company with great brand image. If you bought a 4-Cross Turismo in 2023 with no spec options, it would have cost you around £97,000. 1 year and 11,000 miles later, they're listed for 60 grand. That's almost a 40% loss in 1 year. Apply that to the Jag and you've lost 52 grand in a year. So for the people and leasing companies that will actually be buying these things, it's likely to be a tough day when it comes to selling. The new concept car doesn't tell the full story of the brand, but it shows the direction of the styling and design behind it, and to be perfectly honest, I think from the side it kinda looks cool, even though it looks pretty trash from most other angles. But regardless, with everything I've just said about price and depreciation, I can't say that a 4-door GT inspired by that Type 00 with the quality that Jag have been putting out over the past few years could ever align with the age-old mantra of value for money Jaguar were heralding in the 40s through 60s. Add on the fact that this type of car just isn't what people expect from Jaguar, and they're really going to have to work hard to actually make any sales out of these things. So do I like the rebrand? No, but I think it was a very clever way to get people talking. Do I like the new concept car? No, but it was a drastic enough shift from the old car to make me interested in seeing what their first real car will look like, for better or for worse. And do I think they've killed the brand? No, they were dying anyway, but I do think if this move doesn't pay off and this incredibly tough market that they've tried to play in doesn't bite, they're done.